I've actually been drawing all of my life. I went to art college, and when I was there I was drawing all day long, and after I graduated I just didn't stop. So I eventually had this huge tower of artwork, and my husband said to me one day, you know, what are you planning to do with all this art? And he made me realize that I had to be brave enough to actually show it to people. And he posed as an agent for me. He took me and my artwork to New York, where we showed my work to children's book publishers, and I actually got a job. So for the next 25 years, and 35 books later, that was my career. In 1996, I supplemented my job with illustrating some greeting cards for a couple of large card companies. In 1999, Department 56 picked up some of my cards and liked them, and they developed a little line of ornaments, about 12, and we called them crinkles. Much to my surprise, they really took off, and I've been designing those ornaments ever since. In 2002, my husband and I launched our own little greeting card company. We called it Brewster Cards. It's grown from 60 cards into an international company. When my contract with Department 56 ended, my husband and I decided to start our own company. We're making and distributing the ornaments ourselves now and calling it Brewster. I really wanted control over the quality and the quantity of the product. The handmade, hand-painted aspect became my focus, because that's essential to making each little ornament its own unique little work of art. The process of making these ornaments is incredible. It's really interesting and amazing, and it takes a really long time. It all starts with some sketches that I make, and if I decide that sketch is going to be an ornament, I make a full color painting. And if that painting is working, then I decide it's going to be an ornament. At that point, I probably have to make a profile, a side view, maybe a top or a back view of something, so that sculptors, these amazing sculptors that will make this into an ornament, have enough to go on to realize what this looks like in 3 dimensions. They take my drawings and my paintings and they start carving out of wood. Each ornament's actually carved like a little sculpture. And once that sculpture is complete, I get to see it through the internet, through photographs, or if I'm lucky enough in real life, and I can make adjustments. I'll either say that the eyes are too small or the bottom isn't fat enough or whatever, and we'll make those adjustments to the sculpture with clay, and it'll be added on if necessary or carved away if necessary, until the face and the hands and the feet are just right. When the sculpture is perfect, then they lay it into a bed of clay like this. This is being the clay, and this is the wooden carving. This is to create half of the mold. Some rubbery silicone is poured on top to make the top half of the mold. And this kind of stuff is poured on top because it captures all the tiny detail involved in the face and in the arms and the body of the ornament. And after that layer is poured and begins to gel, a heavy layer of plaster of Paris is made to put on top of that. This is just the beginning of half of a mold. The other aspect about this mold making process, which I should mention, is that in order to keep this detail, the molds only last casting probably 30 ornaments, and then they have to be thrown away because eventually little bits of detail will be lost. And at this point, after the mold is made, something that makes my ornaments very special is that the artist in the factory actually has to hand paint the resin into the mold. It isn't just poured in, and it isn't vacuformed in. Nothing is done by machine. Someone has to take a brush and paint very carefully to make sure that the resin gets into all these little detailed nooks and crannies that make up the best part of the ornament. Then the mold is closed, and then the stone resin hardens for about a half an hour. And what you've got when you pull those layers apart is this white blank. Obviously, this has a lot of work still to be done on it. All this extra resin has to be cleaned and chipped away. The whole thing has to be sanded, which is a labor-intensive process, and then it has to be primed. So then eventually we have the excess trimmed off and the perfectly sanded white ornament, and it's primed for painting. So this is a half-painted ornament, just to give you an example of the process that goes into this. This eggplant ornament alone, before it's even added its extra things, takes up this many colors. These 3 colors alone are just for the purple area. Even though she's a purple eggplant, she's just not painted with one flat color. First it's white, and then it's pink, and then very carefully with a dry brush painted to give it the final effect that you see on the finished eggplant. That's just the purple. Obviously the face and the stem and everything else, her little extras have to be added. She gets a little purse, and her purse has to be painted. And she has a tutu, which is several layers of fabric which are actually sewn and then glued on, and they're actually hemmed, and glitter is added to that. The painstaking process involved with painting, I know only from doing it on 2 dimensions, and I can't imagine doing it on the 3 dimensions. I'm thrilled that there's another artist involved doing that. Some of the ornaments require additional feathers. This one has a wire and a star and a lot more glitter. And the Santa is unbelievable. I know how long it took me to paint these things on a flat surface. And now there's someone that not only has to match them all, but they have to go in and they have to paint each stripe all the way around the leg and keep them all, you know, fairly symmetrical, although I like that they're a little bit varied. Just each one of these little strips took forever. And then they add these fiber felt balls, this wire, tree, twig in a basket, and star. Those things all have to be formed and painted and added on. The Santa has also a fiber vine going around his back and in both of his hands. And the painstaking process in painting this guy alone is just hour upon hour. You can see he has a tiny little watch hanging from his waist, and it actually says that it's 10 after 8. Each ornament now will have a stamp in it, and it not only gives you authenticity that you know it's my ornament, but it also has the year that it was designed. This one says PB09 on it. Once we finally have these ornaments perfected, we get just a few samples brought here to show to stores in order to take orders. And we're only making these ornaments to order. We're only making what we know is going to be bought and sold. And once we take that order, the process takes about 4 months from the order until it arrives here. I feel very fortunate to be able to bring these characters to life. And I'm really hoping that people will be able to sense and feel the many hands and brushes and hearts that have gone into bringing these products to you. From the very first sketch in my studio all the way through this long process to bringing you a little character, a little ornament that you might want to pick up and bring home with you.